and that the sex was about handcuffs, choking, putting on dog collars.
Do you get those turning offer that up publicly?
To me, her turning it down shows that it's not a money grab.
No, it shows that it's a bigger shake.
The Shannon Sharpe saga has erupted into a whirlwind of controversy, and the layers of the story are nothing short of jaw-dropping. For years, Sharpe has been a towering figure, both literally and figuratively, in sports media, crafting a persona of charisma, charm, and confidence. But now, that carefully constructed image is crumbling under the weight of shocking revelations, leaked recordings, and explosive accusations. This isn't just a scandal, it's a full-blown implosion. And with every new piece of evidence, the picture becomes more disturbing.
Alrighty, y'all. So the Shannon Sharpe ESPN, does he still keep his job conversation is beginning to, I was going to say beginning to happen, but it's been happening, but I think now it's beginning to get louder because of different things that Attorney Busby has released, including the audios. So right now the conversation is, why is Shannon Sharpe still able to be on ESPN?
Let's start with the audio. The grainy, tension-charged clip that has been making the rounds is nothing short of chilling. A man alleged to be Sharpe is heard threatening a woman with words that are as disturbing as they are unfiltered. "If you say that word one more time, I'm going to choke the life out of you when I see you," he says, his tone equal parts frustration and menace. The woman replies, her voice trembling, "I don't want that," only to be met with the male voice insisting, "Yes, you do. I don't think you have a choice. The context is murky, but the implications are crystal clear. This is not the playful banter of two people engaged in mutual understanding. No, this is something much darker."
They also are now beginning to bring up past things that have happened with Shannon Sharpe, including a temporary restraining order that was filed against him back in 2010 from a woman that he was dealing with at the time, who accused him of sexual assault. He said in different things. Now, this was dropped. It was dismissed.
And it doesn't stop there. The texts are another layer entirely. They read like the script of a relationship gone off the rails, with messages allegedly exchanged between Sharpe and his accuser, revealing a dynamic that feels more like a psychological thriller than a consensual partnership. The phrases are explicit, raw, and downright bizarre. One message reportedly reads, "I want you to put a collar around my neck. You know what I like." Another, "I know you miss this. You owe me." These aren't just messages. They're breadcrumbs leading to a much bigger story, one that paints Sharpe as a man who thrives on control and dominance. But here's the thing, this isn't the first time Shannon Sharpe's name has been linked to questionable behavior. The allegations stretch back years, and the pattern is undeniable. Former partners have come forward with eerily similar stories of manipulation, intimidation, and a chilling sense of entitlement. One ex, Michelle Evans, has resurfaced with claims that echo those of his current accuser. Evans describes a relationship where arguments quickly escalated into threats, where attempts to leave were met with promises of ruin. She's even alleged that Sharpe would call incessantly, just to remind her that he was watching. If true, these aren't just red flags. They're flashing neon signs that something has been amiss for a long time.
Shannon Sharpe says he's temporarily stepping away from ESPN in the wake of a $50 million lawsuit accusing him of rape. A woman filed suit against Sharpe on Sunday, accusing him of raping her twice in the last 6 months.
And let's not forget the incident at F-Zone. During his tenure there, Sharpe was accused of physically intimidating a production assistant. The details are murky. Some describe it as playful roughhousing, while others hint at something far more serious. But what's clear is that the matter was quietly settled, a financial agreement ensuring it never saw the light of day. This pattern of silencing accusers with payouts and non-disclosure agreements raises an uncomfortable question. How many other incidents have been swept under the rug? What's particularly damning is how Sharpe's public persona contrasts with these allegations. On camera, he's the smooth-talking, suit-wearing, larger-than-life personality who can charm an audience with a single laugh. But behind the scenes, according to these accusations, he's someone entirely different, a man who allegedly uses his power and influence to control, intimidate, and, in the words of one accuser, destroy. The duality is staggering, and it's this very contradiction that makes the story so compelling and so tragic.
On Easter Sunday, a lawsuit was filed in state court in Nevada against Hall of Fame tight end Shannon Sharpe because he has become such a massive media star, especially in the past few years. The lawsuit is going to attract a lot of attention.
Then there's the public reaction. At first, his fans were in disbelief, rushing to his defense and dismissing the accusations as a cash grab. But as more evidence has surfaced, the audio, the texts, the hauntingly similar stories from multiple women, that support has started to crumble. Social media is now flooded with people dissecting every word, every action, every old interview where Sharpe might have hinted at this darker side. One viral post described him as a predator hiding in plain sight, while another simply said, "This isn't the guy we thought we knew." The tide is turning, and it's not in his favor. Even Sharpe's colleagues have started to distance themselves. Ryan Clark, a fellow sports analyst, didn't mince words when he addressed the situation publicly. While he stopped short of outright condemning Sharpe, his tone was unmistakable. "This isn't new," Clark said, hinting at a reputation that's been whispered about behind closed doors for years. People in the industry know, and that's perhaps the most damning statement of all, that those who worked with him, who knew him best, aren't exactly rushing to his defense. Instead, they're staying quiet, letting the allegations speak for themselves. What makes this all the more shocking is the timing. Just days before the first lawsuit was filed, Sharpe was reportedly on the verge of signing a massive media deal, one that would have further cemented his status as a titan of sports commentary. But now, that deal is in jeopardy, and so is everything he's built. The irony is almost poetic. A man who has spent years building an empire, only to watch it crumble in the face of allegations he claims are lies.
It's a claim against someone alleging that some rights were violated, and in most cases, what's sought is compensation in the form of damages to make up for whatever it is the person did. And there are all sorts of civil lawsuits, car accidents, defamation. We hear about that a lot because people get sued about things that are said about them in media.
And yet, for all the denials, for all the statements from his legal team calling this a shakedown, there are whispers that Sharpe has been quietly trying to settle. Reports suggest he offered a significant sum to his accuser in hopes of making this go away. If true, it raises another uncomfortable question. Why would an innocent man offer such a large payout? Is it an admission of guilt, or simply a desperate attempt to protect his brand? Either way, it's a bad look, and one that only adds fuel to an already raging fire. The deeper you dig into this story, the messier it gets. There are the accusations of financial manipulation, the claims that he tried to dox one of his accusers, the rumors of past settlements that never made it to the public eye. And through it all, Sharpe has maintained his innocence, insisting that he's the victim of a coordinated effort to take him down. But as the evidence piles up, that narrative becomes harder and harder to believe. And here's the kicker. We're still only scratching the surface. Behind the lawsuits, the leaked messages, and the audio clips lies a much bigger story, one that has yet to fully unfold. How far does this go? How many more people will come forward? And what will it mean for a man who, until now, seemed untouchable?
Unlike the Deshaun Watson cases where there were 20 plus plaintiffs and they weren't really sure who the people were who were making the claims, in this case, Shannon Sharpe knows exactly who it is because there had been, and it's clear from the statement issued by his lawyer, Lanny Davis, there had been some pre-litigation efforts.
And just when you think the cracks in Shannon Sharpe's world couldn't get any deeper, the floodgates burst open. It's not just the lawsuits or the audio clips. It's the entire foundation of his legacy that seems to be teetering on the edge. The more you dig, the more you realize this isn't just a story about one man's alleged misconduct. This is a story about unchecked power, about a culture that turned a blind eye, and about the high price of silence. The industry players who worked alongside Sharpe, shared stages, locker rooms, and green rooms with him are starting to speak out. Whispers have turned into murmurs, and these murmurs are becoming loud enough to be heard. Former colleagues have begun to recount moments that, in hindsight, feel like glaring red flags. Producers from his days at S-Zone are quietly admitting that Sharpe's temper was an open secret. He had a way of making people feel like they were the problem. If someone challenged him, even over something small, he would get in their face, physically invading their space until they backed down. If they didn't back down, they would find themselves off the schedule.
About the lawsuit against Shannon Sharpe. Now, this one has some very strong allegations. Assault, assault and battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress. The components obviously give it greater gravity than a car accident or any case based on some sort of negligent slip and fall, something like that where someone was just being...
It wasn't just about shouting or losing his cool. There are allegations that Sharpe manipulated dynamics on set to maintain control. A former assistant claims he would pit team members against each other, encouraging petty rivalries and fostering an atmosphere of tension. It was like walking on eggshells. No one knew when they would say or do the wrong thing and suddenly become the target of his anger. He had a way of smiling while he criticized people, which was terrifying. What's even more unsettling is the way Sharpe allegedly weaponized his charm to keep people in line. Multiple sources close to his past projects have described him as disarmingly charismatic, a man who could make people feel like the center of the universe. Until they weren't, he would build people up, making them feel like they were part of something big and special. But the moment someone crossed him or didn't live up to his expectations, he would flip the switch. His charisma would turn into something sinister, and he knew exactly how to cut people down without ever raising his voice. Despite all this, Sharpe's name remained untouchable for years. Part of the reason is that he was incredibly savvy about who he targeted. He didn't go after people who had power. Instead, he went after those who couldn't fight back. Assistants, interns, junior staffers. These individuals were replaceable, and he knew how to make it look like they were the problem, not him. This strategy paints a damning picture of a man who allegedly used his position to shield himself from accountability at every turn.
But Tony Busby says this is key evidence in our case against Mr. Sharpe, so it will not be coming out. He will not be leaking this.
And saying basically it's going to come out during the trial.
Right.
If there's a trial.
If there's a trial, it will come out, which to me sounds like he's still dangling it over Shannon's head to say, we can meet, we can settle this, or we can go forward into a trial, and then the video is going to come out. Now,
the situation is further complicated by the role of enablers. Several people who worked with Sharpe over the years have privately admitted that they saw red flags but chose to stay quiet. It's hard to speak up when one's job could be on the line. Everyone knew Sharpe was a star who brought in the ratings, the deals, and the money. So people either looked the other way or risked becoming a target themselves. These admissions raise a troubling question. How many people helped create the environment that allowed Sharpe to allegedly act unchecked for so long?
Essence from Atlanta, him refusing to look at the evidence just gives me the impression that he wants plausible deniability, and maybe the evidence should be released so that way he does not deny his actions. I mean, if that was me, I would definitely want to look at the evidence to see what I did and did not do so I can maintain my innocence.
And then there's the money trail. If you follow the settlements, the private mediations, the quiet payouts, a disturbing pattern emerges. Sources close to Sharpe's legal dealings claim there's a history of financial agreements designed to keep accusations under wraps. One case, buried deep in the archives, involved a woman who worked behind the scenes on one of his earlier media gigs. She reportedly accused Sharpe of making inappropriate advances and creating a hostile work environment. According to insiders, the network stepped in quickly, not to seek justice, but to protect their talent. The settlement was described as sizable, with an ironclad non-disclosure agreement ensuring the details would never go public. They didn't even ask if she was okay, said a source familiar with the matter. They just wanted her gone, and they wanted him untouchable. And yet, despite all these allegations, Sharpe's star continued to rise. How? Because the media machine that he was a part of is designed to protect its own. Networks are invested in their personalities, their ratings, their bottom lines. For someone like Sharpe, who brought in millions of viewers and dominated social media with his larger-than-life persona, the rules were different. Accusations were brushed aside, settlements were treated as mere business expenses, and any dissenting voices were silent. It's the kind of systemic failure that allows people in power to keep repeating the same behaviors without consequence.
Well, in other news, Shannon Sharpe. So you guys remember that video that Shannon Sharpe was saying was going to release?
Yes,
that
it did.
No.
Oh.
But now, that system is breaking down. The lawsuits have opened the door for others to come forward, and the stories they're telling are eerily similar. Take Michelle Evans, who has accused Sharpe of intimidation and emotional manipulation during their relationship. Her allegations have sparked a wave of responses from other women who claim to have had similar experiences. One woman, who asked to remain anonymous, described an encounter with Sharpe that left her shaken. "He has this way of making you feel like you owe him something," she said. "Like you're lucky to even be in his presence. And if you don't give him what he wants, he makes you feel small, like you're nothing." It's not just women who are speaking out, either. Male colleagues, former teammates, even rivals are starting to share their perspectives on the man behind the public persona. Some are defending him, insisting that he's being unfairly targeted. Others, however, are painting a much darker picture. "He's always had this air about him, like he's untouchable," said one former coworker. And to be fair, for a long time, he was. But power like that, it's dangerous. It makes you think you can do anything, say anything, and get away with it. And then there's the irony of it all. Sharpe built his brand on being the outspoken, unfiltered voice of reason. He was the guy who called it like he saw it, who wasn't afraid to challenge authority or take a controversial stand. But now, that very persona is being turned against him. The public isn't just questioning his innocence, they're questioning his integrity, his authenticity, his entire identity. Was he always this person hiding in plain sight? Or did the power and fame change him into someone unrecognizable?
According to reports, that video will not be released. Attorney Tony Busby came out and said that they are not planning to release that video, how they were dropping audio, because it's a very strong point of their evidence in this case, and they're going to keep it and use it as
In
such.
court.
Yeah. Now, that is interesting because Shannon Sharpe, remember, he kept saying he believes the video was going to come out. He believes the video was going to come out. So there's been a change there somehow.
Meanwhile, the legal battles are heating up. Sharpe's team is doubling down, insisting that the allegations are baseless and fueled by greed. But their strategy is raising eyebrows. By releasing personal messages and private details about his accusers, they've opened themselves up to criticism. Some are calling it a calculated move to discredit the women who have come forward, while others see it as a desperate attempt to shift the narrative. Either way, it's a risky play and one that could backfire spectacularly. And let's not forget the role of social media in all of this. Platforms like Instagram, X, and YouTube have become battlegrounds, with fans, critics, and commentators all weighing in on the scandal. Hashtags calling for justice are trending alongside memes mocking Sharpe's downfall. It's a digital feeding frenzy, and Sharpe is right in the middle of it. Every move he makes, every statement he releases is dissected and analyzed in real time. It's a level of scrutiny that few could withstand, and it's clear that Sharpe is struggling to keep up. The question now is, where does this all end? Can Sharpe salvage his career, his reputation, his legacy? Or is this the beginning of the end for one of sports media's biggest stars? His legal team insists that he'll be vindicated, that the truth will come out, and that justice will prevail. But for many, the damage is already done. The allegations, the audio, the texts, they've created a narrative that's nearly impossible to undo.
Yes, and another interesting thing too, and this is why I said, I've never seen anybody handle a situation worse than Shannon and his team after this came out. We would have never known about that so-called video if it wasn't for Shannon Sharpe.
Yes. Yeah.
Shannon jumped out there and revealed that video existed. And he did that for no reason because they wasn't even planning on putting it up.
So what do you think? Is Shannon Sharpe a victim of a coordinated attack, or is this the long overdue reckoning of a man who thought he was untouchable? Are we witnessing the fall of a giant, or just another chapter in the ongoing saga of power, privilege, and accountability? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget, this story is far from over. Stay tuned because the next twist is just around the corner.